Hi folks, we're going to be making something a little bit different this time round for this video. I've been scouring the online 3D models as you do, going through the usual channels, your CG Trader and Colts 3D, and I came across this guy, Admiral Ackbar. So it's a Star Wars one, but not quite as you would normally expect to see him. He's done in a kind of Japanese chibi style. It's not something I'm normally a fan of. The giant head look isn't normally my sort of bag, really and truly. But I saw this guy and I thought actually I quite like this design on this one. I think for little aliens like this fella, it kind of works. So we have got Admiral Ackbar, the master of stating the obvious, it's a trap. So he's quite cool because he actually comes on a seat. Which I've already sprayed black. So he sits on the seat, and then connected to that is a platform which has a little computer readout which clips onto the front, and he sits in front of that. So he's kind of like positioned sort of yay with the computer screen in front of him. So yeah, it's nice little design. I quite like the little added touch of his little command chair and everything. This is going to be a very simple paint up, not really much to it, but I think that's the idea really with these type of models. I printed this guy as he came. I didn't alter the size or anything. He's probably about 7 inches stood up. He can stand, although he isn't supposed to. He is supposed to be sat down on his little chair. I hollowed him out. I've had to put in holes in the feet to do that, but that'll be hidden when he's on the seat. Likewise, I hollowed out the other parts as well. I put in a couple of holes here, and again I strategically placed that because they will be covered up when he sits down. The only real one that I couldn't really hide is I had to put a hole in the bottom of the console there. I could fill it, but to be honest, you're never going to see it because it's going to be on the bottom. And then me being me, I had to change something. The base that he comes on is quite big. It's kind of like a big square, and it's a trap written on it. I wasn't a fan of that particularly, so I just went off and found a regular base free download. This was intended for sort of miniatures. I just sized it up, and again I have already sprayed this black, and then I have coated that with a satin varnish. So that piece is done, as is the chair, because the chair is just going to be black. So same thing, sprayed that chaos black and then a couple of coats of satin varnish. So there we go, I've already got a head start on the painting. Likewise, these parts are all going to be white. Obviously I'm going to put in a bit of detail, but again, spray painted white to help me out with that. And Ackbar is spray painted grey, just primer, just because grey's a good base primer really, no other reason than that. Okay, so enough of my waffling. Let's slap some paint on this guy. I think it's going to be a pretty quick video. Nothing, as I say, really too major on this one, but hopefully it'll look quite nice when it's done. Okay, so to kick things off, let's use some Parasite Brown and paint in all of the skin. Next, I'm going to be taking some Deathworld Forest and I'm going to paint in all the little spots all over his skin. So all these little parts here. Just work around, painting each one in and trying to be as neat as I can. Next, I have mixed up a yellow ochre with a touch of deck tan just to make a slightly paler yellow, and I'm going to put this in for the eyes. While that yellow is drying, let's take some bloody red this time from Vallejo, and we're going to paint in the tongue, which might be a little bit tricky because it is actually buried quite deeply, but I can always come back and tidy up with that orange if I need to. I'm going to take some black now, and I'm going to paint this across the next part of the eye on each side, and I'm also going to do the nostrils as well. And then just to finish off the face, I'm going to put some deck tan on each of the reflective circles on the eyes here. Using that same deck tan, I'm going to now paint in the arms and the legs. Going to take some bone white next, and this is for the chest because he has a different kind of vest on, which is a slightly different colour to the rest of him. Using that same yellow that we used on the eyes previously, I'm going to now paint in the stripe down either side of his legs. And then I'm going to take some lead belcher silver and paint in his medals. I ended up spraying the console silver in the end rather than white, just to sort of break up the colours a bit more. And what I'm going to do now is just take a few different colours and just paint in the buttons. So taking some yellows and some reds, and I'll probably put a bit of green on there as well, just on those ones and on the other side as well. So with all the pieces now fully painted, I have gone off and given them a pretty thick coat of satin varnish. This is the one I used from Army Painter. What that has done is given quite a reflective look, which is what I wanted. Now the good beauty with sort of those type of varnishes is it actually tidies up the painting a little bit, because it kind of eliminates any perhaps brush strokes, things like that you might have, or any differentiations in the colour. It definitely brings in a more universal look. Now the reason I sprayed it with this was to give it a more plasticky look. That's what I wanted to do. So I certainly wouldn't do this for my more realistic statues that I make. But for this I want it to look nice and plastic, nice and reflective. Here is the console that I finished up, and what I've done is glued the chair together. So I've glued it onto the glued the chair into the stand, and then onto this base that I previously made. So all that's left to do now is to glue him down into the seat, and then once he's in place is to glue the console on. Now the glue I'm using to do that is a combination of this contact adhesive by Gorilla and also a little dab of super glue as well. What I tend to do is put this stuff on each surface, give it a couple of minutes for it to start to cure a little bit, and then just before I attach the two pieces I just do a couple of dabs of this onto that contact glue, so I get the benefit of both worlds, and it instantly bonds once I do that. Because this post, as I say, I kind of cannibalized this together myself. This isn't the stand that's supposed to come with this, and so it's not a perfect contact point, but it's strong enough now by using those glues that this should be okay. Here we go then folks, here is the finished model and he's all put together, and I think he's looking pretty good. He's nice and glossy with that satin varnish over the top of him, and yeah, I think he looks the part. There's not an awful lot to say with this one, it's a pretty simplistic model. I told you this was going to be a quick one. But I think it just goes to show, you know, you don't have to do overly complicated models every time just to have a bit of fun, and also to get a nice little model at the end of it, really. I mean, he's going to look pretty sharp. Wherever I find a home for him, he'll probably end up on a desk somewhere. As I said before, you know, it's not my normal style of stuff, but I quite like this one. And yeah, as I say, it's just a nice little breather, really. Nice little change from the usual type of models I do. And for those of you who, you know, trying to get perhaps your kids involved in this sort of hobby, something like that, this is the type of model I think that would, you know, really make a nice beginner model to do. Okay, cool. That said, this was going to be a quick one, so I'm going to end it there. Thank you very much for watching. Please consider subscribing if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.
Take care, everyone.